The catalogue supply chain, evolution, not revolution. Please, for the first 3 slides, just humour me. I do appreciate that when people stand up at these events, you do tend to get quite a lot of the company. The first 3 slides are all about Shop Direct, but they do help me put into context the evolution of our business and also the evolution of the supply chain, and hopefully what is a very short presentation, because there's a lot going on in our supply chain right about now. I had to fight with my team to pick one of the many projects that we were working on. So, who is Shop Direct? Well, Shop Direct consists of 6 retail brands. Very is by far our largest brand at the moment. This is worth about 0.8 billion turnover year on year. It's grown at a fantastic rate of knots, about 20% year on year. That was added to earlier this year with Very Exclusive, which we launched at the London Fashion Show. You'll see in there as well our growth brands, Isme, Littlewoods Island and Woolworths. Littlewoods Island is a fantastic business over there in the Republic of Ireland, doing great things. And of course, let's not forget the heritage. So Littlewoods and K&Co, even though we are today a true digital retailer, we have in the UK high street, the UK retailing space, I should say, more than 80 years of retailing heritage. From a scale perspective, if I just think of retailing, our turnover is about 1.7 billion. What some of you may not realise is that Shop Direct is also the UK's largest non-lending bank. So if I added on to that our financial services arm, turnover is in the region of about 2.3, 2.4 billion. But from a retailing point of view, which is what we're talking about today, 1.7. This is where it gets really exciting. Proportion of online sales. At the moment, we are north of 87, not 86%, and that's how fast we're growing, of sales are actually online. And the really, really exciting piece for a retailer is that more than 50% of those sales occur on these. They occur on mobile devices, then PDAs, and then your laptops. So you can imagine that as what was a catalogue retailer, our trading patterns with our customers has changed quite radically over the years. You've seen it yourself. You can get on a bus, it's got Wi-Fi. You get on a train, it's got Wi-Fi. We get orders now that come through from literally 6:30 in the morning, and you see this sawtooth of demand build through the day, whereas in days gone old, you would have had people coming home from the end of the day, they would have been on the phone, would have taken orders at the end of the day, we would have processed them the next day. Now, literally from the minute people are having their cornflakes, people are ordering product, which is fantastic, of course, for us. At the moment, daily website visits in the region of about 1.1, 1.2 million daily visits every single day. Daily, every single day, but there you go. So this is the slide I wanted to get to. This is the one that helps me just set into context why we are where we are. So, back in 2003, the shareholders took what was Great Universal Stores over in Manchester and Littlewoods, which was literally Old Hall Street, the street behind here, and brought these 2 businesses crashing together in a program called BOP, Business Optimization Program. So it was all of our fulfillment centers, it was our logistics infrastructure, our buying, processing, sourcing, etc., contact centers, was all brought together in this enormous piece of work to create one business from 2. In the middle of that, 2004, 2005, we took a very, very brave, but obviously very far-sighted strategic decision, and we actually decided to step away from the high street. So even though we were then a distance retailer, we are now a distance retailer, back in the 1930s, we started Littlewoods High Street stores, some of you may remember that, and Index. So in 2004, 2005, we closed the high street altogether. That took us through to 2007 into the next part of our transformation, which is, as you can see, was business-led. Here, we then started to build on that distance retailing model. To put that into context, back in 2005, I produced 29 million catalogues for distribution. Online sales, 11, 12%. As you saw from the last slide, online sales now are north of 86, 87%. This year, I will produce less than 300,000 catalogues. Those big 1,500 page BMOs that you used to see on the coffee table. That takes us to where we are today. So we are now, as our business, in our customer-led transformation. This is where we are taking what was in effect a catalogue business and turning it into a true digital retailer. So the question is, as a logistician, how does logistics support the strategy of a business aiming to be a digital retailer? In simple terms, we are evolving a supply chain built and designed to support a catalogue business into one designed to support a digital retailer. Obvious question that would come from that is, what is the primary difference? Well, the primary difference is twofold. The first one is that a digital supply chain for our business has to go from push to pull. If you imagine a catalogue business of old, you had 2 seasons, autumn, winter, spring, summer, and you spent a huge amount of time sourcing, building up stock, building up stock, building up stock, then you go into launch. So you've pushed all that stock into your DCs, you then spend the next 3 or 4 months pushing it all out to service the customer. Fundamentally, from a digital supply chain point of view, it's all about having each of the stakeholders in the supply chain, including the customer, pull that product through as demand, be it forecast or perceived, actually dictates. And when I say perceive, because we are an online digital retailer, my shop window is literally that. So my ability to actually change and influence it is in real time. Only this morning as I'm sitting here, an email pops up, another sales opportunity has been brought forward, and we in supply chain now have to react to that. The second major difference is visibility. Every supply chain has visibility, but in a supply chain fit for a digital retailer, that visibility is about frequency, it's about accuracy, and it's about how you use that information. Again, in a catalogue supply chain, that data was all about, is it going to be ready on time? How much stock is ready at the time? We've gone for launch, move it on. Digital supply chain, you can't work that way. So, do you like the slide? I'm a school governor, so I got year 3. They were at a loose end, and I said, look, do me a favour, just put me a slide together. And they did a cracking job. As I said before, I'm very limited in time here, so I'll get a move on. We have an awful lot of work going on across all of that supply chain. My accountability, myself and my team, is for all of that, with the exception of those 3 DCs and the returns DC. They belong to a chap called James Harper, who's head of warehousing, fulfillment, does a fantastic job. Everything else inside there, including the drop shipment model, falls to my team. And this strategy of going from push to pull and creating a digital supply chain is taking account across that entire supply chain. I can only touch on one area. And I'm going to talk to you about one called Project Focus. And Project Focus, in simple terms, is actually changing our buying terms. So, we, like many, many retailers, currently buy on FOB. Sorry if I'm educating people and they already know this, but just allow me to go through the process, if you will, just to make it clear. From a free on board perspective, when you buy your goods in the Far East or you buy your goods anywhere outside the European Union, the cost of goods includes, from a supplier's perspective, customs clearance, all the paperwork, local duties, local taxes, port charges, CFS if you use the CFS, speaking with the shipping line and get the container. In effect, everything through to the point on the port classed as gated in. From that point then, Shop Direct take control of that container and move it on. We're changing our supply chain terms over the next 4 to 5 years to free carrier. So in simple terms, the supplier is accountable still for customs clearance. They're still responsible for paperwork. Paperwork's a bit of a misnomer. In our business, we use an electronic document system. So actually, when we talk about creating paperwork, it's 0.01 cents every time you do a transaction. So it's not an awful lot of money for them. But they're still accountable for creating that paperwork. What that means then is everything beyond that, loading the vehicle, is now the responsibility of Shop Direct. Question: how does that actually help influence our strategy of going from push to pull? And what does it mean from a visibility point of view? Well, in simple terms, the benefits are visibility first and foremost. Ability to prioritize. Because I can now deal with the supplier and actually understand where the supplier is in the mechanics of their production process. I can now feed back into the UK as I do and explain to them actually what I've got when I've got it. In addition to that, that allows me then, from a trading perspective, to be able to speed up and slow down, put this into reality. I've got something in the region of around 2,000 SKUs on the water at any one time. We sell 90,000 SKUs as a business. You heard the figures before that we're delivering 43 million items. So you can't expect the trading team to go through every single line. This is not about the trading teams making a decision every minute of every day about what they ship. This is about giving the trading teams visibility of what we have and actually when they're going to have it. It allows the trading team then to pull that product into the UK to be able to not only fulfill the demand of the DCs, but also, as there was this morning, any extra catalogue activity, we still call it catalogue. There are some old habits to kick as a business, but we still call them catalogue items. That will change. And it allows the trading team to tell me the priority, the order, and the volume that they require when they require it, which under FOB I can't do. It also allows me to give my colleagues then in fulfillment a far more accurate picture of the intake of product that's coming into the UK. No demurrage. Now, I'm going to show you a little picture of a system at the end of this presentation of a system we built a little while ago. So no demurrage is a byproduct of actually this piece of work, but it's actually supplemented by something else we've been doing. But in effect, since we started this process and we started our visibility program a couple of years ago, I haven't paid demurrage to any shipping line for, this will be year 5, which I think for a UK retailer, considering the volumes that we move, is actually quite a good success story. And milk runs origin. So something else that we found as a benefit out of this process is that because we can now see when a supplier will have product available, what level of product they will have available. If you imagine that we raise an order with a supplier, we may order upwards of a dozen different items at a time, but they don't manufacture them all at the same time. Because now those items are being made available to me in a piecemeal fashion, we have the ability to send the container back up the supply chain and actually collect from a maximum of 3 factories in one go. Whereas that would have been a CFS load, that takes a week at least to process in the Far East. I can now turn what was a CFS load into a CY load and actually process that in 48 hours versus 7 to 9 days. So again, from a point of view of stock availability for the customer, I'm making product available quicker. I'm allowing the trading teams to make informed decisions, what they want, when they want it. What it doesn't mean is that every single item that I move suddenly gets changed. The vast majority of what we move remains intact. They have a far more accurate picture of what's coming into the UK, but there are exceptions at either end of that bell curve where they want me to slow some stuff down because the weather is the weather. We sell 90,000 items. We are a department store. We're not at the mercy of the weather, but some things that we push forward, such as barbecues, suddenly you don't need them. Jumpers, you suddenly don't need them. Bikinis, suddenly you don't need them. So again, we're reacting to the trading, not the buyer. Benefits? Operational costs. Well, of course, like any of these things, we are driving this for the customer benefit, but of course we want to get benefits out ourselves. What we're finding is that we're using less congested ports. I can't give you the exact numbers, but when we did the trial on FOB versus FCA 2 years ago and we started the program, we found that there were certain full loads of clothing and footwear we could actually move from the Far East into the UK and still give change back to the buyer based on what they were paying before as regards their logistics costs. One of the benefits of this is actually it does open up and shows the buying team the true cost of what they pay. It also means that I have fewer container movements and also I get a better consolidation of mixed goods. Again, traditionally, under the old catalogue system, clothing and footwear went through CFS. Most of the things that we bought tended to be full loads. Now, under FCA, because we've got control from the back door of the supplier, we can now start to do what we call bricks and feathers. We can mix and match of consolidated loads. I'm just conscious of time, so apologies if you need me to slow down. But just a quick example. So this is a system called Compass. So, of course, when you've now got this visibility, you now need to share this information with your business. This is a system called Compass, which we built in cooperation with Damco. This brings all 4 of my supply chains onto one platform. And what this allows my trading teams to do, and you can see at the top, merchandiser, financial, Damco, op shipping, so on and so on. Behind that, all the various stakeholders have access. But importantly, they all have access to the same data. Whereas in the past, finance would draw their data from the purchase order system, warehousing would bring it from their forecasted warehouse management system, so on and so on. Under Compass now, there is one version of the truth. All the stakeholders have access to it. So if it started with 42, it doesn't matter which way you break it down, when you add it back up again, it will still say 42. And this allows me now to talk to the trading teams in real time and allow them to actually call me on the day in the Far East and tell me, actually, can you slow it down? Can you speed it up? Visibility means that now this is M+, this is just a system which sits with our sourcing business. We're now plugged into the back of that. Again, that's a factor of bringing FCA to bear. We're now starting to see from our trading teams that actually they want a greater buy-in to that information. Last but by no means least is device. And device is a system which is basically an in-house system. So when we talk about FCA and having visibility, and we talk about actually providing trading data, it's not just about showing them actually what's going on, where the product is. It's helping them manage their suppliers and make sure that their suppliers are operating to what they believe they are. So if they're telling you it's going to be on the 1st of August, is it really on the 1st of August? And this system has been fantastic in helping us keep the demurrage bill down to a big fat zero for a number of years. So I would have dearly loved to have taken you all the way through from a supply chain perspective all of the various projects, and there's well over a dozen of them. I fought with with my logistics team to pick one of them. Peter knows me of old, so my ability, I'm not fitted with ABS, so my ability to actually do short presentations and stuff when I have to is not famed. So hopefully that just gives you an insight just to one small part of how, as a business, Shop Direct is taking a catalogue design supply chain. And importantly, we are evolving it. This is not a revolution. We're not knocking down buildings and creating new monoliths. What we're doing is we're using an existing estate, but we're using it smarter, we're using it quicker, and we're using it better for the benefit of the customer. Thank you.